Hi everyone and welcome to Hydrovision. In this video we are going to look at what is the arena mode in Blood Bowl 3 for this season, season 9. It's the Khorne Arena, as you can see here on the first screen or the title of the screen. You can also access it if you go to play, because it's one of the 3 official competitions, which is what gives you quest points and stuff if you look at your manager tab. So if you go to the Khorne Arena, you will get all the information here. You have the summary, which has the instructions and the rules for how you build a team. It tells you it's a single game every time. It's competitive timer. You can play it with anyone on Xbox and PlayStation and PC. You can check which teams you have registered currently. You can unregister one if you want, and you can register new teams by clicking here. And you can check the parameters so you know what you're going into. So it's basically 2 minutes with 7 minutes, 7.5 minutes time bank, or is it 2 minutes and 7 minutes time bank? Well, it's the competitive clock. It's one game, and the teams can be experienced, they can be customs because it has to be the way Arena works. It's resurrection mode, which means the players don't get SPPs and their injuries are just removed after every game. So that's what it's all about. So there's also no overtime, so you could have draws, which is important because, as you can see here, if you have 2 losses or 3 draws before you go to 7 wins, you lose the run. And then you can re-register the same team. You don't need to build a team every time again. You can just register the same team again and start a new run. And the goal is to get 7 victories before you get 3 draws or 2 defeats. If you manage this, there will be some rewards we will be looking at in a bit. And you can play as many teams as you want. You can say the same team as many times as you want. Basically, what Arena does, it's trying to simulate or emulate a tabletop tournament where every round you're paired against, well, except the first one. The first one is always completely random. It's actually not an Arena, though. And then it tries to pair you up to someone with the same record or as close to as possible. So in Arena, it's basically you have your number of victories, and then the game tries to find someone who is close to the same number. It could be 1 or 2 above or 1 or 2 down, which actually means when you have your first game, you're not going to get paired randomly into someone with 6 victories already, right? You're going to get someone who's starting a new run or maybe have 1 win or a draw or 1 win and a draw. So there's some kind of like level playing field here, but there's no bronze, gold, silver stuff here. So you can run into a really good coach if you're a new player here early on, if it's their first game, so to speak, and it's your first game. But that's also how you can like learn to get better at the game by watching your opponents, right? So that's an arena run. You're trying to get 7 victories before 2 defeats or 3 draws. If you get the 7 wins, we can under quests look at the arena quests. So if you complete an arena run with at least 1 victory, which means you have to get either fail with 3 draws or 2 losses or get all the 7 victories. Like you have to complete it. You can't unregister the team mid-run. You get this coach title to go up here. If you get at least 3 wins in your run, you get these skulls. If you get at least 5 wins, you get this banner that goes here behind your name. If you manage 7 victories, you get some nice dice. If you manage with 7 victories and no defeats, which means you could have 1 or 2 draws as well, you get this Mr. Negative looking border. If you manage 7 victories and no draws and no defeats, you get this cool Khorne banner. And then there's a reward for every race or every team. If you win 7 games, you get the champion after the race. So if you make it with Amazons, you get the Amazon champion and so on. So I did it with Chaos Chosen earlier, and I got the Chosen champion, which you can see up here, and so on. So there are rewards at different levels of the arena as well. Let's go back to the arena. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to split this into 2 parts. The first one is we're going to explain what tiering is and show how you build a team. And then we're going to actually look at the tiering and talk about the tiering, because I am part of the group who is running the arena finals on behalf of Cyanide. And we'll get back to the tiering in a bit. But now, how do I build a team and how do I register it? Well, first of all, you have to pick your team. So you read the rules that are here, and these are important, which means If you have 8 primaries and 1 secondary, it says secondary skills can be repriced by a primary skill. So if I don't want that secondary skill on my Imperial Nobility, I can just make it 9 primary skills, and it still works. We can authorize inducements using your cash, which means we can buy bribes, biased refs, halfling chefs, and stuff like that. But we cannot use the wizard. The wizard is not allowed because the whole point of Arena or NAF style in general is to try to balance the team using different number of gold and different number of skills. There are no inducements to cover the TV differences, like it's all been tried to cover it through this. That's why the wizards are banned. You can't skill stack. Skill stacks means buy extra skills for the same player more than once. Like you have a human blitzer who you want to have both tackle and mighty blow. You can't do that. You're only allowed to put one skill on any player when you build the team, in addition to whatever they start with. You can't random because the whole thing is these gold and these skills are calculated upon that you actually pay full price for the skills. You can't stat up players, no extra movement, no extra armor, and so on. And if you're in tier 6, you're allowed a star player, but you can't use the following ones. You can't use Griff or Morg or Hagflem or Crake or Skitter or Cindy or Bomber. Those are all banned because they're just slightly too powerful in one way or another. Remember, the whole point about the tiering is trying to level the playing field without these, and only tier 6 is allowed star players. So in my example, just make it not too difficult, I'm going to pick Dark Elves because they are the best team. Well, no, they're my favorite team, obviously. So I'm going to decide I'm going to build a Dark Elf team for Arena. So how do we do this? Well, if we go to My Registered Teams and we don't have a team, we click Register Team. Oh, no, I haven't. I have to actually build the team before I do this. So let's go back to the front, the start screen. We go to Teams and we want to create a team. We pick Dark Elves and we're going to call these Arena Test Elves. And we click Next. And then it's really important. You have to click Custom Team because it allows us to use more gold and put skills on our players. And then we click Confirm Creation. And we get to the normal Build a Team screen. And now we have to remember that how much money do we get if we are Dark Elves and how many skills. And unfortunately, there is no a way to access this from here, so we need to remember it. As these are the tier 2 teams, in this season they get 1150 and 6 skills. So I know I want 3 rerolls. I know I want an Apo because I'm not going to have any bench. I'm going to pick one assassin because assassins are kind of nice when there's lots of low armor opponents around, which there probably will be. There are going to be other elves, there are going to be skinks, there are going to be snotlings and goblins, there are going to be Amazons, right? And there's even, if you play against like Khorne, their Linos have low armor and so on. We always want 4 blitzers because the Dark Elf blitzers are really good in Arena when you can just give them dodge, right? So they're blodgers, all of them. I want 1 Witch Elf. And I want the rest to be Linos. So if we check, we have 5, 9, 10. We have 11 players, 3 rerolls, 1 Apo, and we're at 1145, and we're allowed 1150. So you can always be 5k below because there's nothing that costs 5k. If you want inducements, you can click inducements up here, and you can build by star players if you're allowed, which means we're not tier 6, so we're not allowed star players. We could pick inducements, like we could buy a keg instead of a reroll. We could have a bribe instead of 2 rerolls. We could have, starting, if we had 20k extra, we could have cheerleaders or coaches. We could have an Apo. We could have a biased ref if we have enough, and so on. We can't, if we buy the wizard, the team will not be able to register, so we're not going to do that. We're not going to buy any inducements, but this is where you pick them if you have access to them, or money. Everyone has access to it, like if you have gold enough. And if you're tier 6, you can buy star players here. And this is the ones available for your team. So tier 6 can't have all the elves, right? They have different stars. And again, if you do stars, don't buy the banned ones because then the team won't be allowed to enter arena. So let's go back to players and recruitment and click purchase rights. So we have everything here and we're below 1150, which is the Dark Elf gold. We click recruit. And we wait for the goblin to finish running here. Okay. Then we go back to players because now we have the roster filled out. So now we're going to have to add the skills. So Dark Elves tier 2 get access to 6 skills, and I'm just going to build the same team that I had last season, which I've qualified for arena finals with. So the assassin, he is going to get dodge. So that's one skill, right? All my 4 blitzers are going to get dodge. So we'll just move on here for every blitzer. Make sure you don't buy a skill for someone you already bought a skill for, because then you also won't be allowed to enter, even if you're below the number of skills, because stacking is not allowed. Okay, now we have all our 4 blitzers with dodge. If you make a mistake, you can fire the player, rehire them, and put skills on them again, because the game doesn't check until you actually try to register. The witch is going to get wrestle, so we have a sacker. Doodle-doo, wrestle. All the confirming, and then we go back, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 skills. You can also check this by the level of the players. How many level 2 players do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we don't have access to secondaries, so Dark Elves are quite straightforward to build. So now we have a team that is compliant with the arena rules. Now you can do the customizations, fix your cosmetics, your colors, your dice, your pitch and stuff. And then we go back and we go to the Khorne Arena. And in the Khorne Arena, we go to my register teams, register a new team, and arena test elf. We find the team we built and we're registering it. And it tells us that it's now experienced and we can't do stuff, as it always does. And since this team was okay, it just let us in, and now we can spin this in the arena. So that's the first part. So this is what arena is. It's trying to emulate a tabletop tournament where you're paired against someone who has the same record as you or close to. You try to win 7 games before you draw 3 or lose 2. If you do, you get some nice quest rewards, and you can access the arena finals for next season. You can apply. There's going to be part in the Discord that's called arena finals, where you enter your team and stuff. It's not open yet for this season, as the arena season 8 finals is about to kick off next week when I'm doing this video, right? This is just after season 9 dropped. But if you make it, you can register the team in the arena finals for next season, and that means you have to play the exact same team, so don't delete it. And then you're going to play a knockout cup versus everyone else who has had 7 wins and decided to try their luck in the arena finals. Okay, so that's the first part. Now, for the second part, sorry. For the second part, we'll talk a bit about the tiering, because the tiering change with every season, both for how often teams have been played, what have their win rates been, which are the popular teams, there's a new team, and just to change it up a bit. So the most important changes is Amazons and Shambling Undead went from basically what Dark Elves and Lizards have now to way less gold, but still 6 skills. And that's because Amazons and Undead really don't need those extra 40k, because they just give them everything they need. They don't even have to think about anything. They just put all their positionals in and everything. And there's no point in thinking in how you want to build a team, which means Amazon had a huge bench, an amazing roster, and probably the best team in the game currently, in Blood Bowl 3 at least, because vampires aren't here yet. And Shambling Undead is very good at low TV. I mean, they get the mummies, the whites, and all their ghouls. Now they have to do some choices, right? Dark Elves and Lizardmen are exactly the same, and they're probably perfectly tiered. The problem with Lizardmen is they're the boring team. Just put 6 guards, or maybe you put in 6 blocks, on the Saurus, or maybe you switch one for a guard, right? But usually just 6 blocks is the standard Listerman team, and that's what they get with this package. Then dwarfs and orcs have given a better package because they get one more skill than last season, and both dwarfs and orcs kind of struggles when the other bash heavy teams gets much more, as we'll see down here. And especially since there are now ties, both orc and especially dwarfs, they're really good at drawing, but when there's no overtime, they can't really win on attrition, which means they struggle a bit. So they get 10 more K, which don't really matter much, but they get one more skill, which can be a huge difference when they play against the teams that are above them and even some in the same one. Alongside dwarves and orcs, we have human, necro, Norse, Skaven, and wood elves, and those teams lost a secondary from last time because they were all super popular, especially the wood elves and then the Skaven. They're really good when they get 7+1, and they also had more gold. Like they have less gold, and they have one less secondary skill, which is going to be huge, right? So they're not as good as before because Wood Elves were clearly the best team last season. If you look at the win percentage and how many teams that registered for arena finals are Wood Elves. We're not going to look at those stats now here. We have those at hand as well, but this is basically how you think when you build these teams, right? So you have to make choices now with these teams compared to before. They either have less money, they have less money and less skills, right? Except dwarf and orcs, who are getting a bit of a boost. In tier 4, we have nobility, renegades, the new team Khorne, and Elven Union. And basically here, nobility and chaos renegades are basically where they were last time. Khorne fits in here because we don't put them, like, I don't decide this, I'm just using we as in the general we, whoever, but like, because if you put them with Chosen and Nurgle, there's basically no reason to play Chosen and Nurgle because it's slightly better when they have like 8 skills and a secondary skill from the start. Like all their Bloodseekers have block, all their Khorngors can get skills, right? And the big guy can get block. The quote-unquote winner here is Elven Union, who was tiered with Wood Elves and Skaven last season, and they're just a worse agility team. So they need the buff. They get enough money for either an extra reroll or all the positionals they need, and they get extra skills, right? So they're now competitive when you put them versus Wood Elves and Skaven, right? Before they weren't. Tier 5 is basically the same when it comes to Chosen, Nurgle, and Old World. They just need a lot of skills, especially Chosen and Nurgle, because they have nothing from the start that is fighting. And with no stacks, like just a lot of block helps, makes them playable. And the secondary skills means you could have their big guys have a good skill, and you still have one really powerful ability to put dodge or a passing skill on one of your pestigores or something, or your normal gores, the beastmen. Also, the Lions is a strange one because they have lots of skills from the beginning, so they get kind of good when you have this much on them, so they're probably quite powerful in this tier. And then we have the Underworld Denizens, who last time was ranked in tier 2. They had 6 primary skills, I think, and nothing else. And basically no one plays them because they need more. The thing Underworld really needs is stacks, and that's not allowed, so that's kind of what keeps them in check. They get all the bribes they need, they get the biased ref for easier arguing the call when you foul and stuff, but they can't stack skills on their big guy, their blitzer, or their gutter runner, which basically are the only 3. So you get a lot of wrestle and a block and like horns on goblins and stuff if you want to build a fun team that is actually trying to play Blood Bowl as well and not just rely on fouling the shit out to your opponent and one turning or just running around with a super gutter runner. So it'll be very interesting to see how Underworld does this season because they are probably really good now, but they just might not be overpowered without the ability to stack. Tier 6 is the stunted tier, Goblins and Halflings, exact same thing as last time. I think they might even have more gold. I'm not really sure, but it doesn't matter because Goblins and Halflings are like, they're fun teams. They're meant to be hard mode, and if you make them good, they become good because either they are star player caddies or because they foul and kill the opponent players. And those games aren't really fun because they, as I say, turn into Blood Bowl solitaire way too fast, and either the Goblins, Halflings, or their opponent just not have anything to play for by basically 2/3 of the game. So we'll see. They're never really powerful, but they're not supposed to be. Like, they are the fun, wacky chaos teams that sometimes succeed. Black Orcs are like probably the worst team, because even with everything they get, their players are super slow, and they don't start with a really good skill except dodge on the goblins, right? So this season they're gonna get tested in tier 6, which means they can get a star player, probably Varag or Ripper, right? You could even have one of those guys replace their troll and still have a pretty good team and lots of bribes. So Underworld and Black Orcs and Elven Union are the 3 most interesting teams this season to see how they do, I think. And for like all the clarity stuff, like we do run the arena finals. We do have some knowledge behind the scenes. This season we didn't really get to give input on the tiering until they had the base structure put down, and we just had to give some feedback to it, and basically not really much changed. I think there was one thing, and it's basically not relevant. So next season, hopefully we get some more input before that. But I'm going to say I don't hate this tiering. I think it's worth testing. Who knows? Maybe Underworld is slightly too powerful here. Maybe Black Orcs will be amazing when they get the star player access, and maybe Elven Union will be the best elf team this season because the extra skill and gold. But we'll see. Okay, so that's it for the arena explanation. What is arena? How do you build a team? And how do you look at the tiering and decide what to play if you want to think about it, right? So hopefully this has been helpful. And if you have any questions, just leave them below and we'll try to answer them.